para sa kanyang State of the Nation Address. Ang pagtugon at pagbangon ng ekonomiya ng bansa, bagong sistema ng edukasyon and order update at kawalan ng trabaho ng maraming Filipino sa gitna. Babago sa bagong panahon. Sona ng Pangulo. Ang yugto, the DCXL 558 Radyo Trabaho Special Coverage sa July 27 ibang RMN stations nationwide. Pagbabago sa bagong panahon. Sona ng Pangulo. Ang ikalimang yugto DCXL 558 Radyo Trabaho Special Coverage. Lumipas at magbago ang panahon. Iisa at nakatatak ang kauna-unahang himpilan sa paghahatid, bisyo publiko at balita. Ito ang Radio Mindanao Networks. Higit 6 na dekada sa paglilingkod sa masang Pilipino. Sa Metro Manila, ito ang DCXL 558 Radyo Trabaho, ang inyong gabay sa hanap buhay. Bayanihan laban sa COVID-19. DCXL 558 Radyo Trabaho Special.
So, punta muna natin ang Palasyo ng Malacanang. Live na doon si Angel, Radyoman Angel Ronquillo. Angel.
Pakinggan muna natin itong si DepEd Secretary Leonor Briones. At gayon din yung ibang mga gabinete at ang ulat sa bayan ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
Can I please?
Yes. I must listen to you, not only find the time.
We are very pleased and happy to report that in terms of the public and private school enrollment total, in spite of the combined impact of COVID as well as the destruction on the economy, the downturn of the economy, we were able to achieve 77% of the total enrollment compared to last year. Sa public, 90% of our students last year ang naabot natin. So, in spite of these two very difficult situations, ating problem is with the private school enrollees kasi only 27% have returned. And we now have this, what I describe as the phenomenon of private school students migrating to the public school, ang 7,860. And this is because, Mr. President, affected by the downturn in the economy, the parents who lose their jobs cannot already fund the studies of their students. So I also have presented a timeline with work April, May 28, that's when you express support for blended learning. And when you gave instructions that you will not allow face-to-face learning, we also correspondingly took out from our learning continuity program the face-to-face learning portion. But right now, Mr. President, we are receiving many queries and many requests from local chief executives, from legislators, private and international schools. There are 71 international schools all over the country, and they are requesting if limited face-to-face classes can be held. I have here a few slides which I will not repeat anymore, wherein we showed that children are not as badly affected by the COVID phenomenon as the adults, especially the elderly. We are saying that of the total confirmed cases, for example, out of our 67,456 confirmed cases, only 2,832, most of them also mild, or 4%, 4.20% are children. And then we only have 16 recorded deaths of children, which is 0.87% of the total deaths as of July 19, Mr. President. No. So now I go to the possible and conditions. What would be the advantage of limited face-to-face? Well, both the learners, our students, and our teachers are familiar with face-to-face learning, so they will not have difficulty. Administrative costs will also be lower, and also the limited face-to-face classes closes inequality gaps. Kasi kung we rely, for example, heavily on online learning, then you will have equity problems for those who may not have access to digital equipment. And also, this is the most important, when we teach our children, we teach them not only about facts, also about history, but we teach them how to deal with their fellow human beings. And that can only be attained to a great degree by face-to-face interaction among children, especially as they are young. Now, some of the disadvantages are, of course, the health risks. That's why we want to limit very strictly the implementation of face-to-face, and also the administrative costs, because maintaining the health standards and so on, and also of our own buildings will also be costly for us. Now, what are the possible terms and conditions which we can impose, aside from the fact that those who will be allowed to do so should be at the lower risk assessment? So we say that the first condition is that it can only be allowed in low-risk areas, or those at least under modified general community quarantine in the transition. It has to be on a case-to-case based by Secretary Galvez. The next is, we were thinking that up to January 2020, we can start allowing. Between August and at present, we will be assessing the schools. Secretary Galvez advises inspections of the facilities of the schools. So we can do it up to January, but as I said, Lasal already is into it since June, and then the little island of Siquijor has been quietly having its own version also since June as well. Now, what are other terms? We are saying, for example, Mr. President, that we should be coordinating not only within DepEd, but the LGUs concerned, because they are the ones asking for it mainly, and the local health authorities. And then the fourth condition that we would like to stringent health standards, especially at this time. We were thinking perhaps August, no, but with the new developments, the numbers, and so on, we should be imposing stringent health standards as suggested by the Department of Health, and also by and some of these will take time, like preparing the buildings, making sure that social distancing will be observed, and also how do we do physical education. And there's also advice that we have to, but this will not be difficult for our public schools kasi hindi naman sila air-conditioned, dinidiscourage ang air-conditioned classes, etc. And also, number 5, take consideration very seriously the advice of Secretary Galvez and Secretary Anyo that we have to have a joint inspection. It's not automatic. Kung low risk ka, pwede ka nang mag-open. No, they have to be inspected. And I was saying that DepEd, since the time of your mother, is structured in such to the principal level, the superintendent, and so on, who really know what is the situation at the frontline level. So we want to follow the advice of the National Task Force. So in summary, Mr. President, for basic education, we are saying that maybe we can allow limited face-to-face learning, but to be strictly regulated in the light of present conditions. So we have to listen to at least 4 agencies which would have an interest in the matter. 1, the location of the schools have to be assessed as low risk, but that is only the first step, Mr. President. Secondly, our schools have to be friendly to the idea of face-to-face during the time of COVID, like we cannot allow with very small classrooms. Kung small ang classrooms, we have to adjust the number of students in a class, maybe 10 per batch and so on. And then they have to be in good state of repair. They are safe kasi dumaanan ng mga bagyo, may lindol, may putok ng bulkan, and we have to make sure na even if they are safe from COVID, they might not be safe also from weak or weakened buildings of ours. So, kailangan din sa physical condition ng aming schools. And then, importante is that the schools should also meet the minimum health standards. We have already, as per your instruction, we already organized and our minimum health standards, and it is in writing. We have circulated it actually in DepEd already, because school or no school, we are imposing the minimum health standards. And this is in consultation with DOH. We benefit so much from their advice. Local government, because they are largely the ones who are asking for this, aside from the international support financially, the schools, because they have the SEF. SEF is a national 1% of which should go to education, and which the provinces collect. So it's a national tax. It's our national tax, which yung SEF, the Special Education Fund,